out of this administration. No premature talk of Nobel Prizes this time.
The search intensifying at this hour for missing National Guardsmen who tried to save lives in a city underwater.
Is this really leading by example when you're resorting to calling your colleagues on the other side of the aisle bums?
You're actually worse than bums if you're not willing to stand up to a president.
For the record, that was not a looks-based joke. That was about her ugly personality. She has the Mario Batali of personality.
Our whole country pledges to you, we will never forget our heroes.
Hey, welcome back to the new week. I know some people worked yesterday, Pete Hegseth, but we feel like this is somewhat of a Monday after that sacred day, which was Memorial Day for marking the passing of those who lost their lives in battle.
A sacred day indeed. I actually had yesterday off, too.
You did? You were off yesterday?
I did go to a ceremony, though.
Did you? Well,
yeah,
as a veteran,
my hometown. Yeah, it was a wonderful local ceremony, and we honored the fallen. It was a great day. So I had the day off, too.
Where's hometown?
Holmdel, New Jersey.
Okay.
Originally from Minnesota, via Minnesota.
All right, so tell us how you marked Memorial Day. I know that you were actually on Long Island.
I was out in your neck of the woods.
And how'd it go?
No Brian Kilmeade sightings, though.
None.
What'd you do?
None of your business? No, I'm only kidding. One thing I will add, and I was just talking about this in the break, a lot of times people like to talk to me before the show starts. Once the show starts, it really doesn't go too well. But I saw Deadpool 2.
Good.
It was the most unbelievable movie I've seen.
Really?
I've
heard that from a lot of people.
It is fantastic.
I heard it
They even
was
have a
good.
Fox and Friends reference in there, a bit of a dig.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
What's The Showman, the one about the circus trainer? I heard that movie was good. I heard that yesterday from two people, actually.
I was too busy watching the NBA Finals.
The Greatest Showman or something like that.
Meanwhile, you could not take your eyes off what was developing with the Singapore summit. Back on track, and here's the latest. We have a Fox News alert. A top North Korean official reportedly on his way to the United States right now.
Yeah, the diplomat seen there hopping on a New York-bound flight overnight.
Our own Griff Jenkins live in Washington, D.C. ahead of the potential summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. Griff, good morning. What do you got?
Good morning, Pete Ainsley and Brian. Look, this is diplomacy in overdrive. This brand new video of North Korea's ruling party vice chairman Kim Yong-chul in the Beijing airport heading to the U.S., according to South Korean media reports, to continue preparations for the historic meeting. Plus this, the U.S. delegation on the DMZ at this hour, meeting with North Korean officials. That delegation is made up of these guys: U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Sung Kim, the National Security Council's Director of Korean Affairs Allison Hooker, and Assistant Secretary of Defense Randall Shriver. Meanwhile, in Singapore, the site of the summit, a North Korean delegation has reportedly arrived to meet with the U.S. team already in place there. Plus, President Trump holding a Memorial Day call with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, telling Abe that they are in, quote, close coordination in advance of the expected meeting between the U.S. and North Korea. So, guys, things can change quickly, as we've seen time and again. But June 12th is just 2 weeks from today, and the dialogue seems to be strengthening because South Korean's President Moon greatly helped it by that meeting he had with Kim on the DMZ. Finally, we're hearing there is talk of one last meeting between Secretary Pompeo and the North Koreans to give the final go-ahead. So it is fast moving. There will be developments, and the president heads to Nashville tonight for a rally where we certainly will hear more. Guys?
All right. Thank you so much, Gruff. Yeah, that guy is very well known. He was the one that represented North Korea in South Korea for the Winter Olympics.
Right. And where he's coming from is key because it's from Beijing, China.
Right.
Yeah. Right. We know who's holding a lot of cards here. China.
So why not let him in the talks? I mean, if you can't pull off a yes or no or check this box without China's approval, put him in. And if you want South Korea involved in this, which they're thinking about doing, let him come in. I mean, there was a reason why the six-party talks were there, because so much is at stake besides us. Because if we have a deal and China's going to have an emergency beachside meeting to pull that deal back, like which kind of screwed up everything reportedly before, Just put them in there.
Well, there's going to be those side talks no matter what, right? I mean, North Korea is going to step out of the meeting and make a phone call to Beijing and say, do you like this or not like this? Include them formally or not is an interesting question.
Well, we're going to have Kellyanne Conway to ask her, is this meeting definitely on? Because the president says it's potential. There's a possibility that I would like to move forward as planned. He talked to Japan's prime minister yesterday over the phone, and the prime minister of Japan said, I want to meet with you before you do sit down for this North Korean summit. So they're both going to be at the G7 conference coming up the first week of June 8th and 9th, and maybe they'll be meeting there. He also says there's potential, or the media over in Japan is saying he might go to Washington to meet with them.
Well, put it this way, I think they're both dead serious for different reasons about getting it done, us and them. And the thing is, they have that meeting that was canceled mysteriously between North and South Korea because of military exercises that were already on the books. All of a sudden, they had an emergency meeting Saturday. Hey, let's go meet by the DMZ on the north side.
Was that for that letter, though, Brian?
Right.
No, actually,
the letter and then the response.
The letter and the response said, suddenly Kim Jong-un picked up the phone and said, it's time to meet.
Well, just Karen Tumulty of the Times, Washington Post, and former of Time magazine said this about what she's seen so far.
There's a lot more message discipline coming out of this administration. No premature talk of Nobel Prizes this time. And I think also one of the things that's going to be really important here is kind of setting some realistic expectations for these talks, as opposed to thinking that somehow, you know, by the force of his personality, President Trump can bring about full denuclearization, you know, in his first meeting.
Yeah, she said the way it looks right now, it's a lot more professional this time around than before. And Mike Pompeo is going to meet again with Kim Jong-un prior to the summit.
I just feel like a lot of that's been undue criticism, as if this White House doesn't have their eyes wide open about the difficulty of this task. Rhetoric is one thing. Pulling people to the table through letters with strong talk are different than understanding how tough it's going to be to end a conflict that's been going on for 70 years and a rogue regime that's got nukes. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I think they know that.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff, he is the lead Democrat on the House Intel Committee. He said that Republicans, anyone who supports this president, he called them bums. And then his colleague, Congressman Eric Swalwell, who's a Democrat from California, doubled down on that. Listen to this.
Ranking Member Schiff's point is that if they are not willing to be open to having their minds changed about holding the president accountable, then their seats are going to have to be changed. You're actually worse than bums if you're not willing to stand up to a president who is attacking a former FBI director, a patriot who served our country in Vietnam, like Bob. To the president.
So Eric Swalwell says what he said about bums. But with the president, some people might not like the president's tone, even on the Republican side. But they see he's built up the military. They say that he's finally stepped up and tore up the Iranian deal. He's got North Korea at the point where they have to deal, or they know they're going to be in the middle of a war. Tax reform has passed, $700 billion for the military. They're on the cusp of VA reform. So they see that and they say, I like what's going on. But I think this has been a Republican caucus that has stood up to the president, much to his chagrin. The Freedom Caucus has given him a hard time. You know that in the past that Rand Paul has stood up to him at different times. I think they've been remarkably honest, remarkably honest when they want to break with him.
Yeah, you're right. The Republican Party has been divided, especially a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
No, I think, well, and the Freedom Caucus has actually improved a lot of bills from the conservative perspective. You don't like it, it's not good enough, we're not going to vote for it, it gets better, then we vote for it. This line about, Bob Mueller served in Vietnam, it's true. It's great. I love it. That's like saying, okay, so if someday, 20 years from now, I'm a special counsel, which I'll never be because I'm not a lawyer, because I served in Iraq, I'm impeached. You can't say anything about me.
With everything
like if I hire 13 Democrats and I'm having a partisan investigation and I'm not looking at the facts and we don't know what Bob Mueller's going to say, my service in a foreign war doesn't make me someone who you can't criticize. So I don't know. I mean, the whole idea that the whole bums thing that they're not taking him on. I mean, this president has been under assault from the left and the media from the beginning. And, you know, Republicans have played it pretty straight with him on a lot of levels, as you said, Brian.
Well, I think so, too. And I think that's a great point. It's not Bob Mueller in particular, it's who he's hired, which raises eyebrows and makes people feel really uncomfortable that it's not going to be a fair and balanced investigation. But again, we don't know. We know that the president's got a lot more aggressive of late against the Mueller investigation, and he's much more comfortable this way. Yeah. He does not like sitting on his hands. I don't know if you've noticed. So he's not going to sit there. He's not going to let everything go by the boards. But suddenly these attacks, you know, the Russian attack and constant the pounding of that has helped his ratings go up. His ratings are higher at about 45% now.
Because there's been no new information. There's nothing new. What are we learning? Nothing new, just more stuff, more nonsense for the media. So.
You know what's new? We have not said hello to Jillian yet.
We haven't. Hey, Jillian.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
It was great. How about you guys?
It was good.
Excellent. All right, let's get you caught up on some news because we are following this Fox News alert. A desperate search intensifying for a National Guardsman swept away in a flash flood. Edison Herman last seen trying to help a woman when he fell into the water in Ellicott City, Maryland. And down south, subtropical depression Alberto turning deadly after making landfall. 2 TV journalists were killed when a tree fell on their SUV in North Carolina. The storm now moving north, bringing drenching rain and wind. A fire department diver has died during a rescue mission in Chicago overnight. 46-year-old Juan Bucio was searching for a missing boater in the Chicago River when he was somehow injured. He was separated from his partner underwater and lost communication before he was pulled from the river. 2 other divers suffered minor injuries. Bucio, a 15-year veteran, leaves behind 2 sons. He also has a brother in the fire department and a sister in the police department. The freed American prisoner held in Venezuela for 2 years gets a hero's welcome overnight. Josh Holt's grandmother draping the American flag over his shoulders as the hometown crowd sang the national anthem at the Salt Lake City airport. Holt and his wife were accused of stockpiling weapons after he flew to Venezuela to marry her in 2016. President Trump helped bring the couple home. Holt telling friends, quote, "We finally got our freedom." President Trump honoring America's fallen heroes on Memorial Day. The commander-in-chief speaking to Gold Star families in an emotional speech at Arlington National Cemetery.
Theirs was a love more deep and more pure than most will ever know. It was a love that willed them up mountains, through deserts, across oceans, and into enemy camps and unknown dangers. They died so that freedom could live.
The president also laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And in a more private moment, Chief of Staff John Kelly and his wife visiting their son's grave. Marine Corps First Lieutenant Robert Kelly was killed in Afghanistan in 2010. So look at your headlines and look at that picture, and it just really touches you.
I know.
That guy's got perspective, no doubt.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian.
13 minutes after the top of the hour. Coming up, liberal comedian Michelle Wolf. She's back with a new round of attacks against women in the White House.
If anyone's an expert on hypocrites, it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And for the record, that was not a looks-based joke. That was about her ugly personality.
Now, if you slept last night, you missed a lot. Overnight, a top North Korean official reportedly on his way to the U.S. from Beijing, believe it or not, to work on reviving the June 12 summit. This, as the president plans to meet Japanese Prime Minister Abe beforehand, telling him the high-stakes summit is expected now. So what does this on-again, off-again messaging tell us about the summit's potential? Morgan Atagas, not one to get caught up in hype, is a former press officer at the U.S. Agency for International Development. She joins us now to weigh in. Morgan, even since we booked you, things have changed a lot. So on the surface, where do you think we're heading as both sides seems to be on turbo speed to make this happen?
Well, Brian, it seems like we're headed towards a summit with Kim Jong-un and President Trump. It seems like both sides are working feverishly towards this. And I think the reason that you're seeing the president and the Japanese prime minister talk, and the reason that you're seeing the South Koreans and the North Koreans also talking more leading up to the summit is because I don't think anybody particularly knows what will happen when President Trump gets in the room. When you are a part of these diplomatic negotiations, typically everything is incredibly scripted ahead of time. All of the statements are scripted. The negotiation is basically done when the principals get in the room. And I think all of us who have observed President Trump over the last year and a half know that that's not his style. He wants to be in the room. He wants to be negotiating. And I think given his history, he thinks he can get to the best deal. That probably unnerves the people who are on the other side of the table, because this is sort of upending probably 30, 40 years of diplomatic tradition between the U.S. And North Korea, which I think is a great thing.
Well, possibly, and it seems as though Kim Jong-un wanted this even more than we thought. What do you think was going on behind the scenes as he cancels the North-South Korea meeting because of military exercises he knew about, doesn't send a delegation to Singapore to plan for June 12th, and all of a sudden and China seems to be pushing him back. Then when President Trump writes the letter with an opening to re-engage, he writes a letter back to re-engage, no bluster. What do you think's happening?
Well, I think for those of us who are foreign policy geeks like myself, this is sort of the best soap opera that's ever played out for us. I think what's happening is that the North Koreans desperately want out of these intense sanctions that the President Trump and his administration pursued at the United Nations. I mean, keep in mind that in order for the North Korean economy to survive, they're so utterly dependent on trade within the region. I think that they would love to see some sort of economic opening between themselves and the South Koreans even more. So the whole ball game, and this isn't a new ball game, is that they want out from under these economic sanctions. I think they're going to promise their first child in order to get that done.
Morgan, 20 seconds. Would you be against having South Korea and China there, being that they need to play a role in the final product?
Listen, I trust the president and I trust his senior advisors. They've certainly got us a lot farther with North Korea than the past administration did. This is incredibly tough. And I think if anyone knows North Korea, it's certainly Ambassador Bolton, who has their number.
He does, and he gets under their skin. I don't think the president minds that too much.
No, neither do I.
Morgan, it's great to see. It's great to see experts like you saying we've never been here before. The script is out the window. Thanks so much, Morgan.
Thanks. Have a good Tuesday.
Yes. Meanwhile, straight ahead, the American Medical Association is about to jump into the gun control debate, and they've even got some recommendations for Congress. Should this group of doctors be getting political, ? And we showed you this crazy video, a real-life Spider-Man saving a boy from a window ledge. This morning, we found out where the father was, and you're not going to believe it. It's going to anger you, but I can't believe this guy. Watch what he does. How do you do that?
I got
We are back with a Fox News alert. Israel defending its people from dozens of mortars fired from the Gaza Strip. This, as we learn, Israeli forces are retaliating with airstrikes.
Love that Iron Dome. Mike Tobin live at a kindergarten building where, believe it or not, a mortar hit. Hey, Mike, were they in school?
They were not in school. It was just a short time before the kids showed up with their parents before when the mortars started hitting here. But the Israeli response has already begun. When we were live last hour, you heard a couple of explosions go out over the air. The IDF has now confirmed that is the beginning of their operations into the Gaza Strip. Palestinian media is reporting that there have been strikes around the Gaza City area. We saw a plume of smoke coming from the area of Khan Yunis. Again, the IDF confirming that's the start of their operations. They're urging people around these border towns to continue their normal activities as if nothing was going on, but be ready for more loud explosions. All of it a response to this. I can show you shrapnel from the mortar that hit here at this kindergarten. All of these shards of metal were flying around here just a short time before parents and their kids showed up. Let me show you some of the impact as we look over here at a pipe that was pierced by a piece of shrapnel. The building itself, sad to say, that's a reinforced building where the kids go to kindergarten, and you can see the flecks on the side of that building where the shrapnel shrapnel impacted. Now, it was accompanied by some, first of all, I should tell you, we can show you video of the Israeli Iron Dome defense, which activated during the course of this attack. The IDF claims that a number of projectiles were knocked out of the sky, lessening what could have been a devastating impact. It was accompanied by machine gun fire aimed at the town of Sderot. Cars, buildings were hit, no injuries. Islamic Jihad has claimed responsibility for it. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised a response, a forceful response, and it looks like we're seeing the beginning of it. Guys, back to you.
Wow, never a dull moment. Mike Tobin, thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, Ainsley.
Okay, thank you, guys. The American Medical Association will meet to discuss its official recommendations for gun control legislation. The group is set to push for an unprecedented number of measures designed to push Congress into action. Should the AMA be getting so political? Here to weigh in on this is Dr. Nicole Saphier, a radiologist and breast cancer specialist. Hey, Dr. Saphier.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. When I read this, when I saw that the American Medical Association was pushing the gun control agenda, I thought, what? Why are they getting involved in this?
Well, the American Medical Association has historically gotten involved in a lot of political issues. That's partially why they don't have a ton of physician support. In fact, they only make up about 25% of practicing physicians because of their political and financial motives. But they do have a strong arm when it comes to lobbying. They spend over $21 million a year, so they are a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the midterm election cycle coming up. And this group is getting together this June to put together their recommendations when it comes to gun reform. We do have over 30,000 people a year dying from gun violence in the United States alone. That is more than AIDS. That is more than many cancers. So it's not unsurprising that physicians and healthcare officials are saying that this is a public health crisis. What are we going to do about it?
How do they tend to lean? Do they lean more liberal or more conservative?
Well, it really depends on who you ask when it comes to that. They have gone both ways, bipartisan. They supported the Affordable Care Act and they opposed some of President Trump's health care reforms. However, they also supported appointing Tom Price when he was initially appointed by President Trump. So they go both ways. It is very hard to appease the masses, but I can't say on one side or the other which way they typically lean.
Do you know what their recommendations are as far as gun control is concerned?
Well, they've kind of put out some of their suggestions, and I do see what they're going for. They want to tackle gun control from two sides, essentially, and by also maintaining the Second Amendment. Their goal is not to take away the Second Amendment, but what they want to do is they want to make sure that guns are staying out of hands of people who would be at risk for misusing them, and that would be increased access and treatment for mental health patients, also universal background checks, not just people who buy guns in gun stores, but anyone who purchases a gun, they want to have a background check. And they also want to make sure physicians can have conversations with their patients regarding gun safety. And then from there, they want to look at what kind of guns are actually getting in people's hands. If there is going to be an incident, how are we going to avoid mass casualties? So they are talking about potentially limiting sale of the bump stocks and the semi-automatic ammunition in guns, essentially.
Okay. Dr. Saphier, thank you. Well, he killed a police officer in cold blood, but now he wants the city to pay him and thought the White House Correspondents' Dinner was bad. Well, liberal comedian Michelle Wolf is back with a new round of attacks against women in the White House. Listen.
If anyone's an expert on hypocrites, it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And for the record, that was not a looks-based joke. That was about her ugly personality.
A new show on Netflix, and she was just getting warmed up on that one. We also want to wish a happy birthday to Mel B. The Spice Girl turns 43 today.
If you want my future, forget my past. If you wanna get with me, better make it fast. Now don't go wasting.
Today's
It's the All About Brian show. This is your shot of the morning. In case you missed it this weekend, Prager University released its latest message on Americanism, and this one has a familiar face.
The United States had to fight not one, but two wars for its independence. The first, of course, was the Revolutionary War. Can you name the second? It was the War of 1812. Now, both wars were against the British. And in both cases, the Americans should have lost. The Revolutionary War is very much celebrated in American history. The second one has all but been forgotten. But had it been lost, America's history would have been much, much different.
That is great.
Yeah, they do a series of videos, just educational videos, huge hit.
Brian, I got to say, I recently drove across the country and listened to your book on audio tape. You were with me for 12 hours.
Get out of here.
Yes.
That is
reading to me.
Can't ever get enough BK.
Never can.
The hardest part for me, and I'm still getting complaints, is to slow down.
Oh, really?
Everyone's like, slow down.
That's hard to do, isn't it?
It is for me.
It's a fantastic book and a great reminder. You forget about the War of 1812.
Of war stories. Andrew Jackson, the Miracle of New Orleans. If it wasn't for him, we don't win. And we don't hold on to anything past the Mississippi.
He had horrible diseases, and he his shoulder. I mean, and he still carried on.
He had a bullet in him.
Got shot.
And he suffered from dysentery, and he's down to 140 pounds at 6'1", but they still were able to prevail. And of course, Memorial Day, people think about that because a lot of families have legacies back to the Battle of New Orleans, and they have written me and said, you know, we had relatives in that battle.
Wow. Buy it for Father's Day. It is a great book and a great gift for your dad.
All right, now let's talk Netflix.
Okay, Michelle Wolf has a new show, and you might recognize that name. Can't picture who that is. She's the one right there. Remember, she spoke at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and she got a lot of grief because she was making fun of Sarah Huckabee Sanders and her looks. So now she has a new show on Netflix.
Oh, great. She does. And it debuted, or one of her first couple episodes played. Well, she went on more to extrapolate about this administration, glass ceilings, the CIA, Sarah Sanders. Listen to what she had to say.
Gina was nominated. My best friend, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, tweeted, any Democrat who claims to support women's empowerment and our national security but opposes her nomination is a total hypocrite. Well, if anyone's an expert on hypocrites, it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And for the record, that was not a looks-based joke. That was about her ugly personality. She has the Mario Batali of personality.
I guess he's a chef who's had some trouble, which is unbelievably ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you meet Sarah Huckabee Sanders, which he did, she's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
She really is. Is that funny?
It's not funny.
I like funny. I will laugh. I'm a very generous laugher. I wish that was even remotely funny.
Well, Entertainment Weekly interviewed her and said, how did you feel about all the attention that you got after the White House Correspondents' Dinner? And she said, I think it's awesome. If people hated what I did at the dinner, they're really going to hate my show.
Fantastic.
Okay? All right.
I will say this. Here's an example. Number one, I think we broke news that Pete considers himself a good laugher.
Generous laugher. I like to laugh.
So
right,
if you would,
Janice?
Jillian, if you would add that to your newscast.
I can do that.
Number two, I think that Don Rickles was somebody who spent his entire career insulting people but made everybody laugh. And I think that if you listen to Rush Limbaugh, even if you are a Democrat, he doesn't have hate coming out. He has opposite opinions, and he always does it. A lot of times he does it tongue-in-cheek, like I'm the smartest, I'm the best, I can beat the world with one arm tied behind my back. There's no humor. It's just venom.
Well, you know, we've heard if you're a good comedian, if you can do it without saying sexual stuff, you know, and I've heard that means you're really good. I remember Seinfeld always said that. In this case, I think you're a really good comedian if you don't get political, or if you keep it. I think that's just those are so predictable.
If you do it without conventional Trump hate, then you might actually be funny.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, let's hand it over to Jill. You know, has some more headlines.
Yes, and we have a Fox News alert. Pete, you are a good laugher.
That generous laugher.
Hey, Brian, you ask and I deliver. All right, no, seriously, though, we are following some news that we want to get you caught up on, starting with this. A twice-deported illegal immigrant suspected in the death of his girlfriend and the disappearance of her child is in ICE custody. Alberto Everardo Gutierrez Reyes from Mexico admits to burying the woman's body at a Western New York farm where he worked. He says he didn't kill her. The search now intensifying for her 14-month-old son, Owen Hidalgo Calderon. He was last seen nearly 2 weeks ago. He killed a police officer in cold blood, but now he's suing New York City for not protecting him in prison. Demetrius Blackwell claims he was jumped last year by 2 inmates and suffered a deep cut on his face. His suit against the city's corrections department claims prison staff did nothing to stop it. Blackwell is serving life without parole for killing Officer Brian Moore in 2015. No comment from the department. The father of the toddler saved after dangling from a balcony, we showed you this yesterday. Well, he left his kid alone to play Pokemon Go. That little boy rescued by a real-life Spider-Man who scaled the building in Paris. The father, now accused of neglect, could be going to jail. As for Spider-Man, he's an immigrant from Mali who's now been offered French citizenship and a job as a firefighter. Let's look at your headlines, and thank goodness for him, right? I mean, that is a real-life hero right there.
We were wondering why the other people weren't jerking that baby up, too, but it looks maybe there's a divide.
There's got to be something going on there, yeah.
But by the way, probably the best athlete I've ever seen.
Right.
Can you imagine having that body pad, that strength, as if he did that 20 times before?
I know.
How do you even know you can climb the face of a building?
A lot of pull-ups.
Have you practiced?
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Incredible.
He's a CrossFit trainer.
Yeah, somebody not impressed, Janice Dean.
What?
That was incredible. And yes, I did read a story where there was another couple, but they were at the adjacent apartment and they could only hold on to him so much. So that's when this superhero took over. Incredible story. Okay, listen, we have the tropics to talk about. The actual hurricane season doesn't start till June 1st, but we have already had our first subtropical storm. This is Alberto. It has been downgraded to a depression. However, we are expecting heavy rain to be a threat. We unfortunately have already lost lives with this storm, so know what you're going to do if there's a watch or your warning in the area. The main threat from this is going to be the potential for heavy rain on order of 2 to 4, even 6 inches of heavy rainfall across portions of the Mississippi River Valley, Tennessee, Ohio River Valley, even parts of the Appalachians. So that's going to be a threat over the next couple of days. Eventually, the storm pushing up towards the northeast. Also, this is a separate danger. This is a separate system across the central U.S. where we could see large hail, damaging winds, tornadoes. We had reports of tornadoes yesterday across the Rockies and the high plains. There's your severe threat today. Again, this is a separate system from Alberto. Tornado threat is, it's elevated throughout the afternoon and the evening. And there's your forecast today. So a lot of weather, unfortunately, to talk about throughout the day today. A beautiful 85 and sunny skies today. And Pete, I love your generous sense of humor.
Janice?
This is unbelievable.
Always.
Right?
Why not? Enjoy it.
I love it.
Even a bad joke can be a good joke.
I watched Janice while you said that, and she was nodding. I saw her right over there.
Very true. You're agreeing with him?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're wonderful, Janice. Always.
Thank you, Janice.
All right. Well, coming up this morning, former U.S. Attorney Andy McCarthy, counselor to President Kellyanne Conway, and Ben Shapiro. I hear he might be here on set. All here live.
Plus, this is exciting. The Supreme Court set to issue key opinions any day now, including the fate of President Trump's travel ban and your religious rights. Judge Napolitano has gotten dressed on a Tuesday for us. Hey, Judge.
Good try.
Day's weather.
All right, some quick headlines now. Thousands of Starbucks stores closing their doors for racial bias training this afternoon. But although it's unconscious racist bias. Corporate-owned stores. And good luck finding a straw on your next trip across the pond. The European Union is proposing a ban on all single-use plastic products like straws, plates, cups, and cutlery.
Straws cause wrinkles anyway.
Is that true?
That's true.
It's
More than
meant to-
cigarettes, I read.
What about sippy cups? It's all meant to
We
help
need
keep
those.
oceans clean, which, by the way, plastics are a big problem in oceans.
But sippy cups are a big solution. Are they really?
Plastics are a big problem in oceans. Thank you, Brian.
No, it is true.
Yes.
There's a huge blob coming our way.
We're going to fact check that for you.
Supreme Court.
No, that's true. And we'll get to that. So should government employees be forced to pay union dues? The Supreme Court set to release a major opinion. And that's not the only one. Also on the docket, the fate of President Trump's travel ban and your religious rights.
Okay, so here to break it all down for us, tell us why it's important to you and your family, our Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
The union case, I think, is very important and will touch a lot of people. It may actually affect taxes in the states. There are many states, New Jersey, Illinois, where if you work for the government, you are forced to join the union, whether you want to join or not. So let's say you pay $2,000 a year in union dues, $500 of it goes to support political candidates that you disagree with. You can designate where that $500 goes to, but you still have to join the union. You still have to send them the $2,000, and you're being forced to associate with people with whom you choose not to associate. The Constitution says freedom of association. It also means the right not to associate. So if this case goes the way it appeared it would go in the oral argument, which is against the unions, you will see a radical reduction in the power of labor unions in the public workforce. We're not talking about labor unions for private corporations. We're talking about labor unions that raise the cost of operating government, which raises taxes.
What do you think is going to happen? How are they going to vote?
I think they're going to go 5-4 in favor of the challengers. The challenger here is a very courageous and lonely, because nobody else in Illinois is with him, Republican governor of Illinois. I think he's going to win. And once this is challenged, then the power of the unions will shrink, the cost that they impose on the government will be reduced, and taxes can go down.
And Judge, guess what? I think the unions agree. They think they're likely to lose. They're already starting a campaign.
Yes.
To, hey, stay with us, stay in the union, make the choice.
Think about it. If the union is a good thing, and some unions are, they should attract you to them by the benefits and services they offer, not by the force of law. You will join or you can't have your job. That's the law in Illinois.
Also on the list today, religious liberty. What's going on there?
Okay, well, that's the birthday cake, the Masterpiece birthday cake, Colorado case. So a same-sex couple, not birthday, wedding, excuse me.
Wedding cake.
Same-sex couple wants a wedding cake, and a Christian baker says, I don't believe in same-sex marriages. I'm not going to bake you this cake. I'll suggest a place you can go to. It's not very far from here. They'll bake you a cake just as nice as that. Well, no, we want you to bake. We want to force you to do it. State of Colorado forced them to bake the cake. They challenged it. We'll see what the Supreme Court says. Can Colorado force you to do business with people you don't want to do business with? Or does your religious liberty, your religious views, this is a practice with which I disagree, trump the lowercase t, trump the ability of the state to tell you how to
Judge,
work?
how does that differ from race? I don't want to serve you because you're Asian or white.
Very great challenge, Brian. When the government started telling people who you had to do business with, where is that going to end? That is the argument in favor of the state of Colorado.
How about the travel ban that's up on the docket?
I don't think that that's going to come out this week because the Chief Justice has, like Mr. Kilmeade, a flair for the dramatic. And this is the case of the year. I think it's going to come out the last day, which is 4 weeks from yesterday, June 25th. It is, of course, the famous travel ban. There are many of them. This is the one decision that
so
will
many.
That will
It's like
affect all
9.
of them. Right.
Which one are they challenging? His initial travel ban or the second or third iteration?
The first one's gone. The second one's gone. It's the third one. Yes.
Got it.
Yes, this is the one that was upheld by some of the lower courts.
Got it.
Thanks.
Good deal. Thank you, Judge.
Appreciate it.
All right,
You
this
really
student-
listened to Brian for 12 hours?
I did. That's amazing. I can't believe it.
All right, this student signed up to serve our country after finishing high school, but she couldn't wear her Army sash at graduation because it didn't match the school colors. That student and her veteran dad are going to join us live next.
But he still believes the American dream. His last breath, he'll always be a soldier.
A Pennsylvania high school senior can't wear an Army sash during graduation. Tony Kress has already signed her enlistment papers to join the Army with plans to leave for boot camp in August. The school apparently saying the sash didn't coincide with school colors, so it can't be worn. Tony Kress, the graduating senior, along with her father and military veteran Wayne Kress, join us now to discuss. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Thank you both for your service, by the way. Sir, you served in the Air Force, I believe, and Tony, you want to join the Army, and you will be joining the Army. What explanation were you given to start out for why you can't wear an Army sash with your graduation gown?
For starters, the first explanation I was given is that it didn't match the school colors.
Is that in the handbook? Because I think some have scoured your actual policies and procedures, and there's nothing in there that says that, something doesn't match, you can't wear it.
Yeah, some people looked into it, and they actually figured out there's nothing in the handbook that says that I'm not allowed to wear it.
And so when it comes to graduation, I believe is on June 1st. Are you going to wear it, or are you going to abide by school policy? What are you going to do there?
I'm going to abide by school policy. You know, like, people are like saying like I'm going to be like a rule breaker and stuff like that, but I have no intention of doing that at all. You know, if the school says I'm not allowed to wear it, I'm not going to wear it. You know, I'm not going to disrespect the school like that. But if I do have a chance, you know, off stage when I can wear it, I'm going to wear it.
You know, Wayne, as a father, watching this, you raise a daughter who says, I want to raise my right hand and defend this country. I want to go to boot camp. I want to be a part of the military. How does it make you feel that a school won't allow her to recognize that?
I'm disappointed. She worked hard for this. You know, she went through the ROTC program through the school. You know, in today's world where, you know, we have kids out there eating Tide Pods, you know, she's willing to stand up, you know, and fight for her country. And, you know, both of my kids are actually in the Army, and I couldn't be more proud of both of them.
Wayne, still to you, your service, I mean, what as you raise young kids that want to join the military, how did you infuse them with the values that they needed to say, I want to be a part of it as well?
You just got to, you know, just start, you know, young. You got to instill with them, you know, discipline, integrity. And, you know, in the end, you know, both my children have come out to be, you know, excellent kids.
Tony, regardless of whether you get to wear it or not, and guess what? Our viewers are with you. They believe the school should make an exception for that. Are you looking forward to the opportunity to serve your country?
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually really stoked. I'm really stoked to, you know, to serve my country. It's been my dream since I was a kid.
I love it. Well, Tony, thank you very much. And Wayne, thank you for your service. Stoked is a good way to put it. We'll take that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats on your graduation. Well, Fox News alert, President Trump confirmed the U.S. We've got breaking details next.
Well, my parents met in Texas.